The rise of fintech in Nigeria has been very tremendous, with burgeoning tech-savvy population and a growing demand for financial services. Nigerian fintech startups have been at the forefront of innovation. However, as the industry continues to expand, it is crucial to address the challenges that lie ahead. According to Iyinoluwa Aboyeji, who was a former member of the Industrial Competitiveness Council, which former Vice President Iyinoluwa chaired, and we developed ideas including a visit to US Silicon Valley, from where the funding that birthed the unicorns emerged. Aboyeji further stated that the former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele managed to build a policy environment where fintech thrived with the support of the Buhari-Osinbajo administration, which took a nationalistic and patriotic worldview. Joining us now as we discuss fintech revolution in Nigeria, the policies and economic challenges, is Iyinoluwa Aboyeji, partner, Future Africa. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. It's not every day that we have a billionaire, sitting with us at this table. So it's quite a privilege.
Well, I wish I was a billionaire. The companies are billion-dollar companies. But I'm very much a Mikunu like you.
Well, you are involved in 2 startups, unicorns, Andela, Flutterwave. I mean, you are all over the place. But let's go to the issues. Where are we at this moment in the fintech industry in terms of regulation? You've been quoted as praising the Buhari administration, as doing a lot. You've been quoted as saying Emefiele did a lot for the fintech industry. Where are we now? What is the future? What are the challenges?
Just to put my comments in context, they definitely did a lot with the prodding of a well-organized fintech lobby and industry. And my general belief is that entrepreneurs need to get together to posit to governments what they need to do. We cannot allow political leaders to be the tail wagging the dog, because they don't generally know what the industry requires. We as entrepreneurs have to engage them to do so. And during the Osinbajo Buhari administration, even with some of the policy upheavals that they had, the industry was able to tell them, hey, here's what we actually need. And to their credit, they were responsive. And they responded in many cases. In some cases, they didn't respond as well. But they responded in many cases in such a way that the industry was able to thrive in spite of the economic circumstances. Where we are now is a general lack of coordination, I believe, in the industry coming together and having a conversation with the government about where things need to go. And I think even in these times, more importantly, with the people. I was making a point the other day. A lot of people are criticizing the exchange rates. And I said, look, coming from where we're coming from, these reforms must sustain. These reforms must sustain. Despite the pain, if we don't sustain these reforms, business in Nigeria will suffer long term. And that's the context for my point. So where we are now is a lot of new opportunities are opening up for fintech in Nigeria. But these opportunities have to be targeted at helping the average person. We have to be able to help them better manage their finances in a high inflation environment. We have to help them to be able to do a better job of earning income, particularly foreign income. We have to do a better job of helping them save, because now borrowing is not an option at 20-something% benchmark interest rates. Save towards long-term purchases, homes, and so on and so forth. So there is an opportunity now for fintechs to move beyond what we did in our time, which was just bare line payments, to now actually thinking deeply, what do people need in terms of food, in terms of energy, in terms of jobs, in terms of asset management? What do they need? And then providing those services to the people. Unfortunately, the fintech entrepreneurs are not doing that. They are bellyaching about a bygone era where you could make money on cheap arbitrage of FX. That day is over.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. You had an interview recently which I thought was really brilliant. And you shared some of the things that worked under the Buhari-Osinbajo administration. demonstrating how when government is serious about supporting a sector, it can truly transform the sector. He gave the example of the vice president at the time leading a delegation of government officials and private sector players to Silicon Valley to demonstrate to investors that they were serious, that the government was back in the fintech space.
Yes.
Now that hasn't happened, of course, under this administration. It's still early days. But I'm coming to the question now. Yeah. So what are some of the things, maybe I should ask, that this administration has done to provide that enabling support to fintechs to thrive as you did under the Buhari administration? Yes. And if they're not doing it yet, I want you to give some recommendations, because to be honest, you thrived. There was a time, there was a boom, and it's not for a lack of ideas or innovations or talented people, which you identify as the biggest resource that Nigeria has, and I agree with you. But there are challenges in areas of support, in investment, in an enabling environment to thrive, which they enjoyed under the last administration. I'd like you to share with us, number one, if there are things being done under this administration, and number two, what your recommendations would be as we experienced under the last. Absolutely.
I would say in this administration, again, it's early days, like you said. But the early signs are there. Right? A member of the startup ecosystem, a very respected member, somebody I consider my mentor, Dr. Bosun Tijani, was appointed a minister. That is a big deal. We didn't get that honor in the last administration.
He's from the space. Anyway.
He's directly from the space, and he's taking a big interest in a bunch of our biggest problems, which have been issues for a very long time. Talent, connectivity, artificial intelligence. Now, is there more government can do? Absolutely. We will never stop asking government for things. But I still think that it's important to, again, make the point I was trying to make. Government doesn't do things of their own volition. They don't have the ideas. It is us, private sector, nationalistic and patriotic private sector, that will engage government and tell government what to do. The result, that trip didn't just come out of Professor Oshibanjo's head. Yeah. I, as a member of the National Industrial Committee, alongside members of the industry who constituted the Advisory Council on Technology, made the suggestion, and he responded to it. I think with this administration, a lot of the primary issues are really around regulation. Now, the biggest issue that I have right now is that, with the last administration, because of low interest rates and so on globally, and relatively lower interest rates in Nigeria, you were able to do a good job regulating the fintech space from the perspective of a banking side. And I think we've done a good enough job of that. We have rails, we have volumes and all of that. Yeah. It is now time to innovate on the security side, the capital market side, because that is the side of the equation that is lagging behind. We also have to start thinking about insurance and risk. We have to innovate on the insurance side. I'm very happy with some of the personnel changes, but I think they need to be moving faster. They've done some interesting things when it comes to digital assets, but there's a lot of need for us to now think carefully about what it is that they can do in terms of lowering the bar for advisors to enable more young people to be able to come onto the scene with new products and new ideas, right? In terms of helping people to be able to create new products that enable savings, right? That enable better assets lending, asset-backed lending. Yeah. There are a lot of opportunities for example, another area is, there's a lot of our diaspora, they're looking for dollar-based products. Yes. The innovation of the dollar-backed bond is one thing, but why can't private sector also issue bonds in dollars if they need dollars? Because there's a lot of our diaspora that are looking to do that. Yeah. How have we utilized the free zones? We're working on something now called the digital economic zones, where we're trying to help create a platform where people who want to come into the country, especially now that the currency is much cheaper and it's a better investment environment for them, they can come in and have their funds protected and rules created that favor them, and be able to get speedy justice in the event of any disputes. And we're pioneering that through Eternal. So there's a lot that the current administration can do.
Okay. Is it when people finish dying that we will understand that these reforms are killing people. Because I get what you're doing, Ian. I get the trickle-down economics. The currency is cheaper. There's been a devaluation now. But the argument is it never trickles down. The deregulation...
That's not true.
No, hang on a minute. And I'm going to give you empirical stuff.
Okay, tell me.
Under Reagan, when Reagan
Yes.
deregulated the oil sector, America pushed up child poverty. The contestation between the Republicans and the Democrats all these years has always been the case of trickle-down economics that never really trickled down.
It pushed up child poverty in the short term.
And I get this.
But if you look in the 90s when Bill Clinton came, you saw the reverb effect.
No, because Bill Clinton pushed forward to more growth.
Because he had the fiscal room to do so.
More capital injection in the economy. He brought about more projects. He solidified
because he had the fiscal room to do so.
Industry. But it doesn't go to the poor people. So when you look at it, I get this. Yeah, money is cheap. It's going to favor you people. It's not going to favor the poor people out on the street.
I don't think that's true. Let me
poor people out of the street.
Let me do some math. Let me just do some math. Right?
Yeah.
$10,000, right? Of investment into the country at 306, right, is about 30 million, if my math is correct, right? The same $10,000, I'm sorry, no, it's about 3 million, sorry, at the time, 306 naira to the dollar. That same 10,000 at 1,670 is about 16 million. At the old minimum wage, which is where I personally have my own quibbles, we need to raise the minimum rate so that employers learn to be more productive. Labor wages are too cheap in Nigeria.
Manufacturing is saying they can't even pay.
They need to automate and hire less people.
No, wait.
They are not innovating.
No, wait a minute.
That is their problem, not the government.
Wait a minute. Did you see the minimum wage conversation when it was going on?
I did.
Manufacturers and employers of labor said they couldn't even pay. Even this 70,000 is a struggle for them because, one, you have no economic fecundity. There's no economic viability as we speak.
It's not true. The costs are high.
Costs
are high.
They
are not innovating.
The economy is doing so well and people are doing so well.
No, it's not about the economy doing so well.
Yes.
It's about productivity.
Where's the productivity in the economy?
Well, it should come from the employers. It should come from the business people. They are not doing their jobs. Look, let me finish my math argument because there's a tendency to make arguments that are skewed to one side, but not to actually think about the economy in a macro sense.
Show me the productivity.
So, no, just listen to me. At the new minimum wage with 60 million naira, you can employ 85 more people than you would at a 30,000 minimum wage with the new exchange rate. What we need to
discounting for inflation?
Well, we're not. Inflation is a function of supply. It's not a function of money. If you like, create as much money as you like.
Just land your point.
So
that we can just
my larger point is, at the end of the day, the economy needs to be more productive. The employers are not as productive as they need to be. That's why they're hiring people. The people themselves are not as skilled as they need to be, which is why we have this problem. The exchange rate will not fix that. Even if the exchange rate is 1 naira to $1, these issues will not go away. This is hard work. Employers must do. Manufacturers must do. The schools, the universities must do. They must move with technology. They must increase productivity. The exchange rate is just baselining us with the rest of the world. It's allowing us to be globally competitive. And this is important.
Iyinoluwa, let me just ask you, well, global competition has its own issues with all that crisis in Kenya and all of that. I don't know whether you want to address that.
Yeah, Africa is learning the hard way that it has to be globally competitive.
Yeah, but my question is the relationship in Nigeria between the Fintechs and the banks.
Yes.
Because there seems to be a lot of competition. That's what I think will be relevant to the ordinary Nigerian who is using OPay, using PalmPay, using services that you're providing, and how the banks respond. One would have expected that there would be collaboration between the Fintechs and the banks. But it looks like there is a disconnect. It looks like there's some kind of a toxic relationship to the disadvantage of we, the ordinary people of Nigeria.
Well, I'll say when I was in Fintech, we had we wouldn't exist as an industry without the support of the banks. I had a lot of ex-bankers mentor me. Dr. Aboyeji of blessed memory, The chairman of my board was a former banker and central banker, Dr. Tunde Lemon. So I don't have that issue. Now, I think there's a lot the younger people have to learn. And there's also a little bit that the older people have to understand. And the lack of this, what I call intergenerational solidarity between the fintechs and the banks, maybe what is leading to this. We tried to fix it in Bofia 2022 when we contributed to that. And we allowed for the first time, the banks were previously barred from investing in fintechs. The Bofia 2022 allowed that to happen, but we haven't really seen the collaboration that we envisioned emerge from there. But I don't think it's a function of policy. I think it's a function of the people. They have to, the younger ones have to humble themselves a bit. And the older people also may have to stoop to conquer a bit and help understand that, look, this is the future of the country, So we have to have that collaboration happen. And I think as more of that collaboration happens, you will see the benefits with the average person.
Okay, just before I let you go, people call you the Elon Musk of Nigeria. And you just said now that when I was in Fintech, you are no longer in Fintech. Where are you now?
Well, now I'm building the next generation of young people because for me...
You are 32 years old.
Yes.
You are building next generation.
Yes.
So you see why they say you are Elon Musk of Nigeria.
Well, I don't know if I'm Elon Musk, but I'm just doing my best. But the way I look at it is, right now I'm as partner of Future Africa, I specifically focus on an accelerator program called Accelerate, where I work with 20 companies a year to achieve revenues of $1 million over an 18-month period. And I work one-on-one with these entrepreneurs in Yaba, in our offices in Yaba, and I help them with their storytelling, work with them to build out their people and operations, advise them on go-to-market and leverage my own contacts within the banking system to push their products. I work with them on their product development, making sure they're building the right kind of products, and also use my leverage and my contacts to give them money. I also fund them myself. And that's what I spend all my time doing now.
You see why I call you a billionaire?
Well, it's not about being a billionaire, it's about being of service to the country. And I think that's something that a lot of our elites need to learn. Entrepreneurship is for service. It's not about making money. And that's why now is an opportunity for entrepreneurs in Nigeria to improve their productivity so they can serve the people better with cheaper prices and better services.
All right, okay, I don't know if you have enough time, but just to go back to that conversation around productivity and innovations, and you put the responsibility solely on the manufacturers and employers. We also have to agree that for them to be productive, there has to be an enabling environment for them to run their businesses.
Absolutely.
And this is what the Manufacturers Association have come out to say a number of times, that they don't have an environment to thrive.
But they have not suggested...
There's an infrastructure deficit.
Absolutely.
How can we achieve productivity without infrastructure?
We can come together to build infrastructure. Government doesn't deliver solutions that build economies. Entrepreneurs do. Look at every successful economy that we admire. They are built by entrepreneurs. They are built by collectives of entrepreneurs who come together and solve problems with the government. The fintech industry was not built by begging government, relying on government's thinking or knowledge on anything. It was built by entrepreneurs who came together and said, hey, government, here's where we need your help. And I think if Manufacturers Association of Nigeria stops calling on government to reduce exchange rate or go back to the old days of subsidized everything, we will be better off. Let them come with ideas of how can we be more productive.
How will they produce? How will they produce?
They use modern technology. How are the Indians doing it? How are the Lebanese doing it? How are they investing in the machinery that is keeping our country going?
With India?
Why can't we? We are why can't we? That's where we need to go. We need to push the manufacturers more and stop letting them over the ledge easy.
Aboyeji, thank you very much for joining us in the morning.